Verse of the day, 2 Corinthians 6:14. I've actually got a really cool story about this. Be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. For what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness? And what communion hath light with darkness? Okay, so let's just all raise our hands right now. I'm gonna ask everybody a question. How many people thought that being unequally yoked had something to do with egg yolks? Come on. Didn't you? You never really asked why. You were like, why do I think that unequally yoked has something to do with eggs? It doesn't. It has nothing to do with eggs at all. It actually has everything to do with ox. So oxen, it's a piece of wood, and there's a center beam, and then there's a collar on each side of this center beam, and it's called a yoke. And an ox would stick its head in this side of the yoke, and another ox would stick its head in this side of the yoke. And the two ox would have the yokes around their neck, and those two ox would pull cargo or a trolley or a cart full of goods. And basically, when this says do not be unequally yoked, it's basically saying do not be somebody who's going to pull all of the weight and have somebody who's not pulling any weight, right? And then another thing that really hit me hard is that I realized that I'm unequally yoked to Jesus. That's why he says his yoke is easy and his burden is light, because you're yoked to Jesus, and the cart that he's pulling is light. It's a light load. His load is lighter than ours. And when you're yoked to him, when you got that collar on and he's got that collar on, you're pulling that burden, or when you're pulling that cart, his is lighter than the load you're carrying. And so we're unequally yoked to Christ, but take his yoke because his yoke is easy and his burden is light. But in your own life, in your friendships, in your relationships, in your family, do not be unequally yoked. Why? Why can't we? Not only being unequally yoked is unfair because you're pulling more weight than they are, but also what fellowship does communion, or what fellowship and communion does light have with darkness? They don't mix. There's day and there's night, right? And then righteousness and unrighteousness, they don't mix together. But so do not be unequally yoked, right? And now you get to tell all your friends a yoke is actually what holds two oxen together so that they can pull a cart. It has nothing to do with egg yolks.